Hey everybody, welcome to another video. Hmm, I'm not 100% sure where I'm going with this one. This isn't the video I had in mind, and yeah, we're just gonna go with it. We're gonna see how things go. So, this channel I've decided is gonna be more of like a type of journal commentary channel for everything I go through and everything I have on my mind. Most of it's going to be about God, hopefully. It should be. But yeah, um, it should be good. It should be good. I don't foresee any reason why it wouldn't be, but you never know. So, I'm completely drawing a blank on what I had in mind. Yeah, let's just talk about relationships. That was what I was thinking of. So, they're so weird because it's like, I don't just mean romantic. I want to make that clear. I mean like any type, friendship, all the good stuff. It's like people, right? It's a specific person you care a lot about, and it's like, huh? How do I go about loving you the best while also letting you know I won't tolerate nonsense, right? At least that's how a lot of them are for me. How do I go about loving this person as best I can while also showing them, hey, nonsense, I'm not going to tolerate it. And by nonsense, I mean like incredible bouts of pride and just really stuff that would peeve them, but also me. Like them if I was doing it, and me when they do it. And excuse me. What I came to the conclusion of was, first of all, you can't try to outpride them. And what I mean by that is that our pride. This is a little nugget from a guy who was discipling me. Um, this is something that he told me. Our pride does not like to be outprided. Our pride likes to be number one at the party, right? And so when our pride is outprided, uh, we don't like it at all. We actually get really mad, and it's easy to then treat the other person as though that they are enemy number one. Worst guy ever. When that's not the heart that we should have for them. We should be reflecting on ourselves, and our motivations for things. Why am I upset by what they said? I can tell you right now, most of the time, it's probably not for any non-selfish reason. Actually, every time we get angry, fun fact, something I found from talking to others and with myself, in introspection, something that I found is that a lot of the time when I'm upset with somebody, even if it's a justifiable anger, there's still some type of selfishness in there. Some type of pride point of like, I can't believe they did this. I can't believe they would say this, do this. I can't believe them. When it's like, well, okay, that's great and all, but look at myself, right? I need to introspect. Take a look at my actions. What have I done that could be a slight against them? Why am I so upset? Like, it goes against the Bible. Great, it's a good thing to be upset about. Understand that you still have some selfishness, even in justified pride. I mean, justified, not pride, anger. It's the whole reason the Bible says, in your anger, do not sin. It's because we have a tendency to turn people into the enemy turn people into public enemy number one, make them the absolute moral opposite of what we like whenever we're mad at them. And it's also because it's really easy to be blinded by pride when we're angry. It's really easy to be blinded by lust when we're angry. It's really easy to be blinded by all sorts of things like sloth and stuff. Mostly pride though. Because like somebody slights you at work, right? You're gonna think to yourself, well, like if you're thinking of getting back at them, you're gonna think to yourself, oh well, they did this to me, and they were asking for my help for this, but they went and did this, so I'm just gonna leave them to do it on their own, and that's gonna suck for them. And it's like, don't do that. And I say all this. This is mostly stuff that I've had to tell myself. So if this feels like an attack, look inwards into your own convictions, because this is all stuff that I'm telling myself as much as I'm speaking it out to anyone watching. But yeah, and then we have some biblical stuff in there, like God opposes the proud, and I believe it's like something like exalts the humble. I would have to find the reference, but there's a lot of stuff about like don't let the sun set on your anger. In your anger do not sin. It's not saying that it's a sin to be angry. You're allowed to be angry. What you're not allowed to do is go and act as if somebody is like the worst person ever. Act as if they're not deserving of life. Act as if they're just not someone who should be bothered with. Because it's not good to do that. What if somebody did that to you? What if you were going through a really difficult time, and you really needed someone, but you didn't know how to portray that? And instead of being patient with you, instead of being gentle and trying to figure out why you're so upset, why you're acting the way you are, instead the person decides to just give up on you. Instead they decide to just say, oh, well, you know what, you say these things, but you do these things, screw you. I'm done ever speaking to you again. Right? It's like, what then? What for you then? If you really need this person, or if they're like one of the only people who would have the resources and capability to help you, all because they were angry that you slighted them. And instead of looking inwards and saying, oh hey, why am I angry about this? What's going on in their life as well? They instead said, screw you, I don't want anything to do with you. Yeah, that's just my question to y'all. What then? Because I know I would be feeling pretty bad if somebody did that to me. I would be feeling really bad if I hurt somebody enough where they did that to me, and I would also be feeling really bad if I did that to someone else. Because thinking about it, we're called to be imitators of Paul as he imitated Christ. And while there was times where I'm sure there were times where Paul was mad, and while there were times that Christ was mad, mostly at the Pharisees, mostly at the Sanhedrin, and the people who were selling things out of the temple, there was still gentleness there. Like when Paul is talking about his conflict with Apollos, I believe it was Apollos, and how he took him aside and said, hey, what you're doing ain't right. When Apollos was showing, what's it called? Preferable treatment, favoritism, or it was like a type of prejudice against the Gentiles because he was worried about the Jews judging him for sitting and eating with the Gentiles. And Paul took Apollos aside and said, hey, this is not okay what you're doing. I'd have to pull up the references, but I believe there's a spot where Paul and Peter get into it. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't Apollos, it was Cephas. In Galatians 2:11 through, we're going to read 11 through 14. But when Cephas came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face, because he stood condemned. For before certain men came from James, he was eating with the Gentiles. But when they came, he drew back and separated himself, fearing the circumcision party. The rest of the Jews acted hypocritically with him, along with him, so that even Barnabas was led astray by their hypocrisy. But when I saw that their conduct was not in step with the truth of the gospel, I said to Cephas before them all, If you, though a Jew, live like a Gentile and not like a Jew, how can you force the Gentiles to live like Jews? So we see here that Paul sees an injustice happening, right? We can gather from the way he confronted Cephas that he was probably a little upset about it. He was probably like, "Hey, what is this?" But instead of himself going in berating Cephas in such a manner of, "Hey, you know what? You suck. I'm not a fan of you. You're not cool. You need to do better by yourself." Paul instead approaches him and with the perfect amount of gentleness opposes him in front of everyone and says, "How can you expect the Gentiles to live like Jews when you yourself, who are a Jew, live as a Gentile?" He uses an example of hypocrisy being demonstrated. Now, does that mean that every time somebody makes you upset, it's because they're being a hypocrite? No, not at all. I'd be lying if I said that was the case, because it's not. In fact, a lot of the time when I'm upset with somebody, it's because they made a really good point about something I was doing wrong and I didn't want to hear it. Which, shocker. It's like, oh, hey, wait, I was doing this wrong. And I just didn't like hearing that I was doing something wrong. A great example from my personal life is with my roommates. There's one who, he and I don't always see eye to eye on things, and he gave all of us a message, pretty much asking us to do a little bit better with how we were doing things in the house and stuff. Like, just, it wasn't anything like big, or necessarily anything that should have evoked any anger out of me if I was actually being humble in it. But I wasn't being humble when I received this message, and instead I read it and I took it the wrong way, and I was just very upset with him for no reason. And I let the sun set on my anger, and I let it fester in my heart for a while until one of my pastors set me straight when I was talking to him about it. And he was like, "Hey, look, this isn't an unreasonable thing to ask." Now, have there been other times where I've been justifiably angry, or rather, yeah, angry with my roommates? Yes. But that doesn't mean that I should go and treat them as if I'm better, as if I am justified to do as I wish because I'm upset. It just means that, oh, hey, I was upset. There was something here that was done wrong, but we got through it. That's all it means. And it's also not that I'm holding it against them, or that I'm just going to let them do whatever they want when it comes to me, and the way I do things. It just means that, like, hey, I'm not always going to see eye to eye with them. And it's important that I try to live peaceably. In fact, we are called to live peaceably. Let me find that reference. Romans 12:18. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Remember, so far as it depends on you. This is not saying that you're going to be successful at living peaceably with all, but on your part of things, be peaceable. Live peaceably with all. Don't cause conflict for the sake of causing conflict. Don't cause conflict because somebody upset you. Live peaceably with all. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love others. Love other believers as Christ loved you. Which, fun fact, if you're gonna love other believers as Christ loved you, right, that means that, let me pull up the references for these. I don't want to just be talking as if I have any more credibility than you who is listening. Hmm. Let me see this. Ephesians 5, 1 and 2. Therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. Let me look up. My apologies. I should have had these ready sooner. I wasn't expecting to talk on this the way I am. Okay, I can't find it. So, I will have to get back to y'all on that. At the end of the day, though, what I'm trying to say is that we ought to be loving others as Christ loved us. As Christ loves us, which is unfailingly, which is peaceably, which is willing to do what we need to ensure that they are given the resources and help that they require. And if necessary, give them the greatest type of love that you can give another person. Lay down your life for them. And now, obviously, there are other ways to love people. Like, if you know the gospel and you know somebody else doesn't know the gospel, don't hold it back from them, obviously. Go spread the gospel. Create disciples. But what I'm trying to get at is that with relationships with people, friendships, romantic relationships, family's a big one in my life right now, and that's going to be a video I cover next. Not next, as I don't want to make that promise and then not cover it, but it will be a video in the future. But family, don't hold things against them. Don't be angry. Love them. What is love? Well, we're given the metrics of love, and I believe it's Corinthians. I believe it's 1 Corinthians 13. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 13. Just the entire chapter. It's only 13 verses. I'm going to go ahead and read it right now. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Sorry, I just got hit with a piece of conviction I'll tell you guys about once we're done with this. Verse 8. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, that then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. So the conviction point I was hit on with verse 7. I'm glad I read this. It hopes, right? The hope endures. Let me read verse 7 again. 1 Corinthians 13:7. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. The conviction I was hit with is that I haven't been loving one of my buddies correctly. And this is actually something I was talking to one of my friends about. This friend, I don't want to get too far into it, but to put it simply, he's very prideful. And he and I do not see eye to eye on a lot of issues. We actually don't see eye to eye on almost any issues. Like just today we had an argument, not a big one, not one that I particularly would ever hold against him, but just an argument about just our moral standings. And it was interesting. I was telling one of my friends a couple weeks ago actually, that I think I was going to give up hope on this guy because all of the time I've been spending talking with him, getting to know him better and better on the moral and the spiritual standpoint of things. It's just I've seen no changes. I've seen nothing. But I'm realizing now that I'm not loving him correctly if I give up hope. I'm not loving him correctly if I'm just saying, your heart is too hard. Obviously there is a reality of don't cast your pearls before swine, but I've seen him have the reasoning to understand the Bible. So there is hope there. I was giving up hope because I was being impatient, which love is patient. Love is kind, and I've not been the kindest to him in some of our disagreements. I will admit that. I will be the first to admit that, in fact. I could definitely have been kinder to him. I think it said love is kind. Yeah, love is patient and kind. So, I've not been the kindest to him. Also, if anybody ever tells you that we're not called to be kind, well, right there, we're called to love. Love is patient and love is kind. There is an aspect, though, like, stick to the truth, don't deny the truth out of kindness. Be gentle about it. But, there is an argument to be made that we're called to be kind. But yeah, so that was the conviction I just got hit with, which is actually, it's really cool. I'm glad that God revealed that to me. I definitely would not have realized that this quickly without reading that verse. Which is to say, I would not have realized it this quickly without God putting the call in my heart to devote this whole channel initially to Him, and to journal out all these thoughts in this type of video essay, not video essay because it's short, but video essay format, I guess. I said not video essay because it's short because it's a personal pet peeve of mine. I don't like it when people call video essays if they're short, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm trying to get at is that I definitely would not have realized that this soon into the game if God had not revealed it. And it was revealed to me because I started this, which is awesome. So, yeah, God works all the time. It's like Ecclesiastes 3:11, He has made all things beautiful in its time. I just, We can't see that because he has set the world in our hearts, which is the second half of Ecclesiastes 3:11. He has set the world in our hearts that we may not know the works he's done from the beginning and to the end. Anyway, back on topic. I could ramble on for hours. Um, it's it's an interesting thing to learn patience with somebody, especially when you haven't been patient with them. It's an interesting thing to learn to love someone correctly, especially when you haven't loved them correctly in the past. There's a lot that's really interesting to like learn and to do, especially when you haven't been doing it correctly in the past, especially with relationships, because it's like, okay, well, I can be mad, right? I can be selfish. I can do anything I want. I can take from them selfishly. I can take from them for selfish gain. But at the end of the day, what does it really profit me if I'm not going to show them the correct type of love? If I'm not going to show them the love that Christ has shown me for just existing and being filled with sin? So much sin. Like, it's an insane amount, to be honest. If I were to be shown the amount I actually sin each day, I don't think I could handle that. I think I would fall apart. But to be shown that type of allowance that I do sin and that I'm able to see that I sin, and then to be shown that they sin, right? But that shouldn't affect how I treat them because it doesn't affect how God treats us. Just yeah, it's a good thing. I'm kind of rambling at this point, which, you know, it's okay. I'm allowed to ramble. This is like a journal, a more formal journal, but journal nonetheless. At the end of the day, it's really just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, what ought I be doing? What should I be doing? You know, should I be holding grudges against people? Should I be taking from them selfishly, as is the nature of the world? Or should I be patient? Should I be kind? Should I be gentle? Gentleness is a big one. A lot of people I know confuse gentleness with kindness, and they also confuse gentleness with um, like a type of tone of voice when it's neither. And I say it's neither, not to take away from the importanceness of gentleness, but to rather demonstrate that, like, you know, it's neither in the sense of how am I to word this? Gentleness is not the same as kindness. There is a reality that we are to be kind, but kindness is not a fruit of the Spirit. I say a fruit of the Spirit. What I should be saying is kindness is not a part of the fruit of the Spirit. I could completely just contradict myself right here, but Galatians 5:22 and 23. We're just going to read 22 through 24. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience. Okay, kindness is in there. Okay, I was wrong. It's niceness I'm thinking of. Right, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. And those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. So, I was wrong. There is kindness. I'm going to leave that in because I see profit in showing that I'm capable of making mistakes, Like I don't know. I'm gonna leave that in though. The mistake I made, because I think it's good to be upfront about that. Um, what I'm trying to get at anyway is niceness, right? People confuse niceness with gentleness, and there is a reality that like they go hand in hand in a way, but there's also a reality in that they don't, and that oftentimes people will say that you're not being nice as a means of saying, well, they will say that you're not being gentle because they don't feel like you're being nice, and they often actually use that to win arguments from what I've seen and from what I've experienced. Is that oftentimes they will claim that you're not doing that correctly to win an argument. Which don't do that if you are doing that. That's not a good thing because you're using it pridefully. Now, if they really aren't and you have the backing of others to verify that, go for it. But don't just say it because you're claiming to perceive it. Like I said, it's one thing if they actually aren't, but oftentimes people are, and it's just they've said something in a way that's really upsetting to you, and you don't want to see it. If that makes sense. I've done it before, which is why I say that. Where was I going with this? Anyway, yeah, they will. Kindness is a fruit of the spirit. Is part of the fruit of the spirit. So I would like to offer an apology for getting that wrong. That I should have. I need to keep that in mind. Kindness is part of the fruit of the spirit. The reason I keep correcting myself to say fruit of the spirit, a fruit is part of the fruit of the spirit instead of like a fruit of the spirit, is because the fruit of the spirit is only referred to as one fruit. Despite how many aspects are listed, it's all just one fruit. So I'm trying to keep that in mind as they come together. Like I can have love, but with love I'm also going to have kindness and gentleness and self-control and patience, um, and goodness and faithfulness and peace. It goes back to peace again. We're called to be peaceable, as far as we're concerned on our sides. That means like if somebody's threatening to attack you, if they're escalating a situation, do your best to de-escalate. And if you screw up, that's okay. Don't screw up again. You're only human. I think there was a Billy Joel song that's like it's called Second Wind, I think, and or You're Only Human, Second Wind. At, at any rate, that's like one of the mantras of it is like you're only human after all. And that's the thing that most people forget. Um, Especially with each other, is like we're all just dudes. Like we're all just doing our best. And I can go out there and I can be mean to someone. I can make some mean jokes at their expense, right? All day long. But the fact of the matter is, why would I? Why should I, in fact? When we're all just trying our best and I'm trying my best. I know they're trying their best. Right? And on the same side of that, why would I be upset at somebody for doing a similar thing to me? Right? Why would I mean, obviously I can be upset about it and I should talk to them about it one on one in private later on. But why would I hold it against them in a manner when they were probably they didn't mean anything like terribly mean by it. They were probably just making a joke and they thought I'd find it funny. Like there was this one instance where me and there was like a group of people. I only knew a few of them, but um, sometimes I'll just go on tangents and make a lot of jokes that don't land or aren't important because I don't know. I just feel the need to talk. And I made one joke, and I thought it was all right, like, but I kept like making jokes, and I made one joke about like a miracle, and one of the guys there, who's actually a pretty good friend of mine, was like, it'd be a miracle if you shut your mouth. And I was like, oh, like, I didn't like really say anything about it, but I was just like, in my head, I was like, huh, that hurt. Now I should have said something about it, but he didn't mean anything in a way to hurt me. Like, when he said that, he was meaning it to be funny, and he thought I would find it funny, if that makes sense. So for me to hold that against him, if I were to, I would argue while it would be understandable, it would not be okay. Because he wasn't intending to be mean. He wasn't intending to, like, just hurt me the way he did. Now, does that mean that I should let him get away with it? No, I should talk to him. I should communicate effectively, like a man, and tell him, hey man, what you said back there really hurt my feelings. And I'd appreciate if you didn't make jokes like that about me anymore. That's how you should go about conflict. If somebody's doing something that you don't like, at least with other believers. With non-believers, it gets a little trickier because there are people who you can do that with, and there are people who you can't. Like, I know there's a lot of non-believers who you can do that with. There are. Like, that's the truth of it. But there's also a lot of non-believers that I know personally that I cannot tell that to, because they'll just be like, oh, what? So you're weak and stuff like that. They'll just make fun of me more to antagonize the situation. And that's where discernment about where they're coming from and what they're doing comes into play. Obviously, you should forgive them. Just as like a general rule of thumb, forgive them. They're gonna screw up. They're gonna do stupid stuff. Forgive them like Christ forgave you. But that doesn't mean that it's like okay for them to do that. And that's where it gets tricky, is how do you differentiate forgiving them in your heart and sorry, I had a thought there and it's like the wind. How do you differentiate the reason you're angry in your heart and the reason you're like, because anger is a secondary emotion. At least that's what I've been told. Do I know if I fully believe that? No, I don't know if I fully believe that. But from what I've been told, anger is a secondary emotion. So there's an underlying emotion in it. So when you're angry about something somebody's doing, it's like, okay, look into your heart. Why? What's the underlying emotion there? Once you've identified that, then look at them and try to discern why they're acting the way they are. I guarantee you it won't be for the reason you probably expect it to be. Yeah. I may cover like romantic relationships in the future. Not sure yet. My experience with romantic relationships has been not the greatest, but also like it could have been a lot worse. So I'm grateful that it hasn't been. But yeah, this is kind of my spiel for today. Don't be prideful in your relationships. Love them the way you want to be loved. Love them the way you love yourself. And love yourself, honestly, because you can't do anything apart from Christ, and you're not going to love somebody correctly if you can't love yourself the way Christ has commanded you to love yourself. Because if I can't love myself, right? And Christ says to love my neighbor as myself and to love God. If I can't love myself, and if I'm okay with just like throwing myself off a mountain, then I'm going to encourage my neighbor to go off that mountain too. So, that's my little 2 cents for you. Be wary of how how your love for yourself is, because if it's not correct, you're not going to love others correctly, and that's not good. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope all y'all have a wonderful day, night, afternoon, whatever time it is. Leave prayer requests in the comments. I'd love to pray for you guys. Alright, have a great time. God bless.